the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media Horse Racing Show. I'm Scott McPike. It's always a pleasure to be your host as always, and we are back where we're going to take a look at one of the best weekends of the flat season, the Epsom Oaks and Derby. To join me as always, it's a pleasure to welcome from the Scottish Daily Mail, Callum McClurkin.
Aye, all set for Derby weekend. It'll be pretty exciting.
We'll start with a bit of kind of baffling news. The incident at Wexford that has got a lot of people talking over the week. It kind of happened before we recorded last week, but we didn't there was too much going on last week that we didn't cover it. What do you think?
Well, there's a difference between what you can think and what you can prove, which any lawyer would tell you as well. The strongest thing is that under the links of fair comment, 99 times out of 100, you'd be expecting the jockey and the jockey and horse to maintain partnership there, wouldn't you? And Redwood Queen, is drifted, fight. Well, there was actually a bit 74 initially, and then went out all the way to 13-2 solidly from 7-2, and all the money came for the favourite as well. And Beacon Edge has come there alongside, not travelling anywhere near as easily as a horse in front, and he's. Well, some people will say taking a dive, some people would say a very soft unseat. I think a very unseat would be pretty kind, and to be honest, because if you watch thousands of races down the line, 99 times out of 100, you'd expect that partnership to be maintained. It was bewildering that the stewards didn't look at it immediately afterwards, passed it, waved it through, but the Irish Horse Racing Board are going to look at it and investigate it, and it needs to be done pretty sharpish and quickly and efficiently, because whatever your viewpoint is, there'll be a lot of, punters outside looking in that watch racing quite regularly and think that was pretty disgraceful. Other people would say, well, maybe something's happened there, and only the jockey and trainer really know. And their previous back record of the trainer would also open a further can of worms and doubt about it. Even some certain results, the Viking Hornobbling case where he gets a 6-month ban for Charles Burns is still fresh in a lot of people's memories. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and that's all the media can really do about it is ask the question. Racing TV have done it. ITV Racing have discussed the topic as well.
What did you think of that? Do you think that was Megan Nichols is not someone who usually is brave like that to come out, but I thought she kind of said what a lot of people were thinking. I think.
Well, that's a lot of the accusation, with a lot of kind of the racing press and pundits, is that it's kind of like all one kind of gravy train, and jockeys will constantly back each other, and vice versa, and things like that. It was reasonably well discussed that Matt Chapman wrote well in the Sun. That Alan Sweetman today in the Racing Post done a really good job on it as well. So it's now being looked at under investigation, and you'll see where it goes from there. I do think there's a massive issue of stewarding in Britain and Ireland. It needs to be much more proactive. Too many times you just don't do anything. When you watch racing, I expect that to be looked at, and it isn't. It can be quite surprising. I think more needs to be done, and at least the question's been asked. It's been looked at. That's all we can do, and it's in the hands of the authorities. And only Charles and Philip Burns will know for sure what's going on. But the betting patterns don't look good. The unseat didn't look good. I don't think anybody recommends jumping off anything at 30 miles an hour, never mind the horse. It's dangerous for a start. Wildly dangerous. If you get it wrong, you could do some serious damage. yeah, but I mean, there are questions there, and I think the IHRB should be looking to fast track and get this, get this looked at and done by the end of the year, because it's triggered a lot of people, and it's the kind of things where if nothing's done, a lot of people I think would be pretty disappointed and lose a lot of faith in the sport.
Yeah, no, I think it's something that needs to get obviously looked into and assessed relatively quickly, because it is just going to. A lot of people are going to be talking about it. A lot of people are going to say what they think has happened and what look like have happened. And I don't think that helps the investigation. I don't think it helps the trainer. I think it helps the jockey. So I hope we just get it kind of sorted as soon as possible. But last week's show was an interesting one, because you had a very strong opinion on a horse that was running that night and is in very much contention for the Ascot Gold Cup. Trawler Man won by 5 lengths at Sandown on Thursday. Now I can see here into 4-1 for the Ascot Gold Cup. It's a good shout for you, and definitely one that is worth keeping an eye on. Were you happy to see that performance was there, and does it kind of further your pipe for the Gold Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I expected it, and he should have done what he should have done, and he did it pretty easily. He was relatively unpestered last Thursday night at Sandown. From an okay field, Cogtrain probably in the downgrade now at his age. He's danced a lot of dances. Was money for Burdett Road. He's had a long season setting the champion hurdle. I mean, I don't really understand why people come back into these jumpers and back them in flat. It's completely different. Out with handicap company, it's a bit of a different assignment. I wasn't surprised he blew out, and he's just kind of dictated from pace, and it's a nice little float up for the Gold Cup, where when Kyprios was out, he was still kind of in that 7-1 bracket. Really, he's now 4s. I still think that's an okay price, mainly because Illinois is in there, and I don't really have a lot of faith in him staying the trip. Jan Bruegel as well. He'll come out in the Coronation Cup this weekend, but I didn't like his reappearance run. He looks an awkward sort, and why Brian and Co are sending him around Epsom over a mile and a half, to me is unfathomable. I think that's the least thing that he wants, so that could actually set him backward if anything. Yeah, and there's the French horse is a potential fly in the ointment, but he's not really done much at this level and hasn't even raced over here. So, I mean, you'd have to take a bit of a leap of faith throwing in 7-2, 4-1 about him. So, like Trollerman, with his old rival Kyprios gone and not bouncing back to form at Sandown, but reaffirming that he's still high class and he still sets a standard, it's going to take a really good one to beat him around there. He's a proven stayer. He's got the best form in the field. And yeah, he's going to be tough. Yeah, whoever beats him, he'll definitely do really, really well to do so. Because he's now by default the established old guard and definitely the best one into it. Because I mean, if Kyprios was miles clear of the field, Trollman was the only one that get near him and occasionally beat him. And Trollman still is still probably well clear of anybody else in open company. So yeah, some 4-year-olds might ask a different question of him. I can't really see it though, and I do think he might go off something like 5-2, almost joints with Illinois.
Okay. We did the kind of other bit of kind of Royal Ascot news that was a bit upsetting actually, because I was really excited to see this horse. Obviously, Albert Einstein ruled out a training setback. Just obviously got in terms of, because he was really strong for the Coventry, and I think he would have won the Coventry. Hopefully, though, it isn't too much of a setback, and we do see him again soon, because I think the O'Brien team have a really exciting horse in their hands.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too serious, because he looked like the outstanding juvenile to watch in the summer, really. So hopefully he can kind of come back at the end of the season and prove that. Yeah, I mean, there'll definitely be others there, and it definitely opens it up. I mean, I think Wathnan Racing have probably got 4 or 5 in there now that have got really good chances.
I think Postmodern could be the one that goes to Coventry.
Postmodern's the current favourite. He looks like the obvious one at the moment. It's whether they kind of reroute Norfolk horses in there or vice versa as well. So it's kind of, you're at that kind of muddy stage of 2 weeks out where you're trying to kind of finalise which ones go where for big horse. Even Trianmore of Godolphin might now not go Chesham and come here instead. Now you're looking at that, you don't really know. So I mean, and some of them, just don't make it as well. So it's a really kind of dangerous, devilish time to punt, because you're playing like double jeopardy in a way where you could actually get the name of the race wrong, and they might not even turn up at the end of the day. So yeah, but Honestly, I think it was definitely one of, I think, pretty much everyone's top three of leading juveniles coming into this. So let's hope that he can come back second half of the season and show why.
Yep, absolutely. We'll just go, obviously, just at the weekend. Not kind of massive performances. I think the one that obviously got a lot of people excited was Estrange. Very good performance again. She just keeps improving. Like, where do you think the ceiling is for her, and where do you think we see her again?
A lovely horse, named by David O'Mara. Very lightly raced. Probably something like the Lancashire Oaks of Group 2, and then into Yorkshire Oaks and Arc territory, really. I think that's where you'd want to go with her. I think 16-1 for that's a bit of a stretch at the moment for one that's so inexperienced. He doesn't want it rattling quick, so that tail end of the season target would be fine as well. But I think Haydock for the Lancashire Oaks and maybe back to York for the Yorkshire Oaks, I think, and then maybe take in the Arc. She's lightly raced, so it's well as she could take in all three of those. But yeah, I mean, she's definitely worth a shot at the Group 1 material by the end of the day, and beat Shah, who's a good, well-fancied favourite of the Gosens, and really cruised up in behind and travelled really powerfully and sweetly. So yeah, and it's a lovely grey horse, and one that's racing very, very easily and doing everything easily, and it's just whether how far up the ladder she can go. But I mean, the logical path is there for these mile and a half fillies in open company, and whether she can kind of do an alpinista and really kind of get to the upper echelons will be interesting, because she's very lightly raced. She might need a lot of time between her races and things like that. So they might need to tread carefully with her. But yeah, she was definitely the outstanding performance of the weekend for me.
I think probably the best ride of the weekend, maybe one of the best rides of the season, was over in France. Camille Pizarro, Ryan Moore at his best, I think, to win the French Derby, because that horse was in a world of trouble, and he got him home.
Yeah, the stablemate went beside and let him out, didn't he? Let's be honest here. He's on the best horse of the race. He's in a bit of trouble in the pocket. And the good thing is, I mean, these top class riders, they're patient enough to just wait and hope that it comes, instead of, like, I mean, you could have shuffled him out and tried to go around the outside and get beat second or third, and you'd leave that race behind. Not only that race behind, but you might leave another race behind afterwards. And that's the kind of thing. If you're Ryan Moore and you're in Ballydoyle, you can sit and suffer and potentially let one go, because there will be undoubtedly other days for horse, for rider, for stable, for trainer all the time. So I think that helps why you can be a bit patient. But yeah, I mean, the French Derby, I can understand why they went back to 10 furlongs with it. It doesn't work around there, because it's like watching the Guineas again. It's a mile dash and it's too tight, and half the field drawn outside have got no chance. For a classic, for Derby, it's pretty unsatisfactory stuff now, really. I mean, the horse with a mile turn of foot one and was drawn down the rail and get a run. That's it, and that's what that race has kind of been about pretty much for the last decade. The Tane was fine. Probably went up and tripped in third. I quite like the way he shaped in the Guineas as well. He shaped again quite well. Yeah, and they all just finish in a heap on top of each other. And to be honest, it's becoming a pretty unsatisfactory watch these days. It's not much of a pointer towards anything. Camille Pissarro, he's either going to be exclusively campaigned in France, or is he a St Mark's Basilica and can win an Eclipse? I don't think he's that good.
No.
His 2-year-old days suggest. I mean, he's pretty highly tried as a 2-year-old, and his form wasn't earth-shattering. But Brian can improve him from 2 to 3 immaterially, and he's obviously done that. And there is substance to that form. It gives Henry Matisse a boost going into St James's Palace Stakes against Field of Gold and things like that. So yeah, it kind of franked the Guineas form, but again, with the France, the way they kind of just, they just kind of sit and suffer. You've got to really dictate. You've got to be in the box seat, and around Chantilly, where it's tighter than Longchamp, you really are struggling if you're drawing 10 or higher, to be honest, to have any sort of decent chance.
Yeah, no, a really good result for Ballydoyle. Let's move into Epsom. Obviously, we've got a busy weekend coming up. We have two great Group 1s on Friday. We will start with the Betfred Coronation Cup at 250. Calandagan looks to be a very short price, 4-6. You've got the likes of Jan Bruegel about 5-1. Givalotto for 8. You got to me, and then kind of 16-1 bar. Calandagan, odds on, very good at Royal Ascot. Brilliant performance at Royal Ascot. Very unlucky behind City of Troy at York, and again beaten in the Champion Stakes, where he was probably unlucky again. And then second at Maidan in his first start. Is 8-11 a good price? And I don't think we're doubting he's the best horse in the race. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think he'll win. He was an unlucky second the Derby behind City of Troy, where he made up ground from the rear. The whole weekend's kind of revolved around the late Aga Khan, and this is there for banker material, really.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much to beat in here. Second the last 3 times. Unlucky in all counts to various degrees, and you'd be wondering how confident Michael Barcelona will ride him, because he does like coming from the back, and sometimes that's contributed to his hard line story. But he can make ground quickly on these, and most of these are kind of stairs. You got to be surely need the outing for bigger and better things next season. I mean, Yorkshire Oaks probably think things like that, maybe even up to 1 mile 6 in Irish Ledger. Jan Bruegel, I can't have this horse at all this season after that reappearance on it. I just didn't see any positives about it. A mile and a half around here, I think it's borderline insanity. He's awkward, ungainly, and you don't want awkward, ungainly types around here at Epsom, around that camber. I can see him running all over the place, personally. And I think Giavolotto's the main threat. Pipe opener off 62 days in 5th. Runs well at this distance. Stays, got a bit of pace. I think he's the forecast option really in behind. I think Calandagan should be really too good at these. The yard form, the Grafford form hasn't been great even over in France by his standards. 22% of them running to form. That's possibly a niggling doubt, but he did have 2 favourites winning in Shanty over the weekend, so it's probably not that great big a concern. So yeah, I'd expect Calandagan to win, and I think Giavolotto could probably beat Jan Bruegel for second. Okay,
yeah, I think Calandagan is probably the best horse in here. It just hopefully gets the luck to win, because it has been like the Eclipse was a good example of that. And Jude Montessori, where City of Troy had him probably held off, but he did a lot wrong and kind of got there at the end and just got there too late. But his performance at Royal Ascot was exceptional, I thought. Like, if he runs to that, he's winning this.
If he runs to any of his last 4 performances, he'll win this quite comfortably.
Yeah.
Even he's very good in the King Edward VII, where he won by 6. He beat Space Legend, didn't he? And that's where he kind of announced himself in the scene.
Yeah.
In City of Troy, get first run of him in York, really, and that's an international test is probably a bit like an Epsom test as well, and that's good form, City of Troy and Calandagan, because the art winner Bluestock's back and forth, so it was probably the race of the year that last season, and at Ascot, he's just bumped into Anmat, who's come there late and beat them all as outsiders. So yeah, he's got quite a good profile, hasn't he? And he should be able to beat these, even though he doesn't have Epsom experience. But I think that York run, I think City of Troy would have him in pretty good stead.
Okay, so 2 votes for Calandagan and the 240. Let's go into the 4 o'clock, where we have the Betfred Oaks Desert Flower. Guinea's winner 5-4 here, very strong over the past couple of days. Ryan Moore has got a choice in his hands, because he's got Minnie Hawk, Giselle, and Whirl. All 3 look to be going, so that'll probably be an interesting thing to follow. We'll probably find that out probably in about an hour, I would say. And you've got like a Revoir. Elwiteen's been supplemented for Sidemen Sarua and 20-1 bar. I would imagine you're in the Desert Flower camp.
No.
Okay.
Not at that price. Yeah, I mean, she's the best. She's the best horse in form. £7 clear the rest of them.
What price does she go off? Think she goes off odds on?
I think who Ryan Moore rides will probably hold the key in what tactics Ballador will do. I don't think she will go off odds on. I think you could see her going off even money. I think she probably will stay the trip. I'm just doubtful that she's progressed from 2 to 3. I mean, I thought that 1,000 guineas was a terrible race for a classic. I mean, Flight's rated £17 below and gets within a length, and if she's racing the right side of the track, she gets a lot closer for my liking. But she did tough that out as if she was a stayer. But she didn't have to improve at all in her 2-year-old form, and I just wonder if others are here maybe catching her up a little bit. And there's 3 interesting rivals from the O'Brien camp, 4 if you include the Beckett, Revoir, who are pretty unexposed, pretty exciting. And we saw how a ridiculously unexposed horse Elwitine got within 2 lengths on her second career start in her life. Desert Flower went 4th in the Guineas from the front. So 65 wouldn't be for me. I think when you do more digging, I think this race is a bit more interesting than it looks.
Have you got an angle in any of the O'Brien horses, or is it simply wait to see who's on?
We'll wait to see what it is, but I would prefer Worrell out the 3,
Okay.
really. And that's one I would back. And going out to 15 to 2 looks a pretty nice price because she's second best in ratings. And she stepped up massively in her seasonal reappearance with winning and won the Musadora in style despite drifting massively on the day. And Snowfall did that 2021 where she was completely unconsidered for the Musadora, won it, and hacked up in an oak subsequently. I'm not saying this horse will do the same, but she's the same kind of profile of not really doing a great deal at 2, but then just improving from absolutely nowhere at 3. I mean, you're seeing it with Camille Pissarro right now in France. It's just this kind of Ian O'Brien where they get them really battle-hardened at 2, and then all of a sudden they really make brilliant strides going into high-graded company in big races like these at 3. I just wonder if she's another one like that that's caught them by surprise. They were thinking going to France with her straight after York, which seemed bizarre to me because she was powering home at the line and looked all out like a really kind of that's the best trial winner you'll see. They've quickly changed tact in that. The market at one point had a vibe that Moore would ride Gazelle. At one point it had Worrell second favourite, and now it's got Minnie Hawk back at second favourite.
I think he'll ride Minnie Hawk. I think
it looks to be. I think the trainers let the cat out of the bag and saying that it probably is. Now that's one of the trio that I think's got no chance.
Okay.
I think she's far too slow, but it might be revealing that that's what they're doing tactically. Because if they're getting some rain, which you normally do on the Friday of Oaks Day, are they just going to try and mess it up front for Desert Flower, stretch that stamina and make it really attritional? Because if they do, that suits Minnie Hawk the most. So I think that's the mindful tactical angle of it. Personally, either way, I don't think she'd be that good enough. I think she's, remember Save the Last Dance a couple of years ago, I think she's kind of that mould of Cheshire Oaks winner and still lacking a gear for me when things go up. So out of the 3, I think Worrell's a bit more solid. I think Gazelle could be anything, really.
Yeah.
Only rated 102, but had a really kind of high 2-year-old reputation. Definitely higher than both of these as well. Beat nothing at Lingfield. It was mad keen. But, that was probably a performance that was better than it looked. Slightly bigger field here. There should be more of her pace on, should help her settle. She could improve at a recognition and leave that well behind and win this. It certainly wouldn't surprise me. So all 3 of them have got something to recommend with them. Probably, if you think Minnie Hawk, Ryan Moore will be on board, so it's probably going to get the dream tactical set up. Gazelle's probably the one that's got the most potential in there, and Worrell's got the best form at the 3 and still get potential to improve. Personally, I'd be with her at the prices each way at the moment. I also think Revoir's interesting. Second in Newbury, in which I thought was a really good race. We're killing Queens there as well, but she'd had a run that season. Revoir's not. The Beckett form, Beckett Yard have really improved for a run. I know she's the lowest rate in the field and 9 to 1, which is getting short, like really short territory now. but she gave the impression that she was the one in that race that ran it as if it was a trial. And I think it's a good race because I think the third San Gazelle's probably, well, I think it's probably got a big chance in a Ribblesdale and a Royal Ascot for the Gosens. So I think that's interesting. Again, I think this might be a bit too much too soon for Elwitine.
Yeah.
We'll see. You know, I mean, it's just a big ass second start coming in there for a third start straight into another classic, and Clamour's gone cold a little bit. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting little race. I think it's more interesting the market looks. I'm happy enough to take on Desert Flower. She could win. She could still be too good, but I'm just wondering if she's vulnerable to something that's got a lot of progress in it. And Worrell just strikes me a little bit Snowfall like in that, you know, she's an unrelenting galloper, but she's not slow. And you know, I think that might win the day because if they do go end to end and there's no hiding place, and that could catch out the favourite.
I really like Minnie Hawk. Like I think she is like the performance at Chester I thought was very good. Like I think she's beat some decent horses in there, like Secret of Love. I think it's got a decent kind of upward profile. It's just a case of like if Moore, how like obviously the other two jockeys like Giselle and Poirot, it's probably going to be Whelan and Lorden. You'd imagine would be the other two jockeys.
It's Lorden and Colin Keane.
Colin Keane, right? Okay, so that interesting. I just if Ryan Moore chooses Minnie Hawk, I think it will set up for her to make the late angle. I'm not necessarily sure Desert Flower gets outstayed because I think she will stay the trap. It's just will she be done at some point in the race? It's a really hard race. It's a really good race. It's a really hard race to get, and I think having three O'Brien horses here who are all most in a way equal. I don't think there's. It's very hard to split all three because like you've got Gazelle obviously is the potential one. Minnie Hawk you'd say is maybe the one that's going to come late, and Whirl's the kind of solid one. It's really hard to split three, but I think Minnie Hawk was just the one after Chester where I thought, yeah, she's the Oaks winner for me. That was just my assumption, and I've not really went off that train. So
Yeah, I mean, but Secret of Love second, she got hammered in the Group 3 at Chantilly last weekend, and you know that's done nothing for that form. She only won by a length. Look, she's open to progress as well. I mean, that's the other thing. You know, she's light. She's the lightest race to the four. She's only had 3 starts. Gail's had 4. You know, Worrell's had 5. So I mean, there's a case made for either of them. She looked the slowest to me, and she's got the most to find on the ratings as well. You know, she's just £17 behind the favourite at the end of the day. You know, Worrell's only £7 behind. Gazelle's £15 behind, but I thought there was more raw potential in Gazelle than Minnie Hawk. But yeah, I mean, you never know. But I mean, a drop of rain in an attritional Oaks will definitely play to Minnie Hawk's favour, and you know Ryan Moore would rarely get it wrong, but he did when Snowfall won it, and by some way. So it's hard to judge these fillies 2 and 3. The draw might be more significant in the Derby because there's more runners. So, but you wouldn't want, for instance, you wouldn't want to be Gazelle and be posted wide because given how fresh she was the last days, you'd want her to kind of race with some cover. So yeah, I mean, a strong pace is going to set it up for any of the 3 of them. In reality, really, I mean, Desert Flower, you know, stamina is still an unknown from the Guineas. Mixed messages with pedigree wise. I mean, I think she'll probably be fine in it. She'd be a bit vulnerable maybe to some better stayers, but she should cope with it if she's well enough positioned. I just wonder if she's going to progress from 117 what she's doing, because if she doesn't, then I suspect that she might not. And you know, she's vulnerable to something improving past her here, and a lot of there's a lot lesser horses in the Guineas that get quite close to her that day than in here. So yeah, I think 8-9. I think it's quite right to have another go at it. Of course, I prefer Ryan Moore on probably on Worrell or something like that. You know, he has been on all 3, so you know he should be able to know and make a really really informed decision. But I would just I'll just side with Worrell, and I don't really think I'm going to shift my opinion on it, regardless of who he's on.
You're in the world camp. I think Mini Hawk, but again, you would be surprised if Desert Hiller just beats them. Just on Friday, obviously, we've got a couple other interesting races. Anno Domini is lining as 5-2 favourite for the Surrey Stakes at £1. A nice 2-year-old race, obviously. We've got another Godolphin favourite in Rising Power, I think is favourite for that. Maximise, sorry's favourite, Rising Power, Ryan Moore on board. Anything you like on Friday? Like, it's obviously we don't have full declarations yet, but anything that's catching your eye?
Yeah, I have to wait to see what the ground's like and things like that. But I'm interested to see a maximise runs, because that was a 2-year-old race, the Woodcup, where they unleashed Pinatubo, who was an outstanding juvenile. So you'd be pretty interested to see what they do. And Godolphin do look to have a really kind of strong hand. They've already sent out some really good juveniles. They've won the first 2 British Classics as well. So I mean, they do really look kind of a formidable force. Whether it keeps standing up throughout the summer will be interesting to see. But yeah, I think they'll take a lot of knocking in the early races on the Friday.
And over into Saturday, we've obviously got the Princess Elizabeth Stakes at 1:00, and we've got the Diomed at 1:35. Docklands, I think, is a really, really interesting runner here. Like, before we get into the Derby, obviously you got Docklands, Persica's in there as well. That's actually quite a good race at Diomed.
It's not too bad, yeah. Cairo could run well at a big price each way, and that, if he takes his chance. I think there's a handicap option for him though. I was quite disappointed by how Royal Playwright ran in the Dante. This might be a bit easier for him, but Perth could be tough to beat. Just Ryan Moore on board, course and distance. Fob can handle Epsom, was 1 round here, and caught a lot of them in the hop at Newmarket as well. And I think if he runs to that similar level, it might be enough here. Geography coming over from Germany is another interesting contender. He'd probably need the rain to come. It's an interesting little race. I mean, I was interested where Cairo would go each way. Persica was probably the one at the top of the market that caught my eye the most in it.
Okay, and we've got obviously the 3-year-old Dash, and then the Dash, 2 of my favourite races of the season. I just love how quick they are. I love a good betting races as well. Anything you like in them?
Well, Spartan Arrow had a good chance in the Dash. I think he was the tailor-made Dash horse when he won the kind of try at the start of the season. But I don't think he'd want rain, for instance. So, but yeah, the draw is going to be absolutely crucial in terms of where the pace is and where to be at the track. I would say 4-year-olds have a decent kind of record in it. Young upcoming sprinters really have a decent record in it. So you'd probably keep your eye out for them. It's for the 3-year-old, it's now a kind of Class 3 race, so I've not really got a big opinion in that yet either.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move into the big race, the Betfred Derby at 3:30 on Saturday. Before we get into the race, what will Ryan Moore ride in the Epsom Derby?
That's a very good question. I don't know. Percentage call would be Delacroix, wouldn't it, really? I think he's a safer bet. He's got a more kind of solid all-round profile for it. The Lion in Winter.
What are you made of the drift? Like, is it?
To be honest, I just think it's usual Ballydoyle whisper nonsense. I wouldn't pay attention to it.
That's exactly what
I really don't care. I mean, he could be 3-1, 12-1. I mean, now he's in the middle, and he's probably where he should be in the market. Really,
Yeah.
Six is. I've not paid attention to any of it too much, because he's not really for me anyway. Not to say. There was positives and negatives to glean from his Dante run, but I mean, I wouldn't say that he's an Augusta Rodin, City of Troy type where he's a top notch and he's going to come back and win this. I don't really think that's his. I don't think he's of that level, to be honest, or ilk. And he was quicker than kind of like ruling court back in the days, 2-year-old days. I mean, does he really kind of really want an out and out mile and a half? He ran all right in the Dante. He came back to him a little bit, but he was mad fresh, and maybe that'll iron him out a little bit. But his temperament at Epsom would worry me as well. He might not kind of give himself enough time or justice really to allow himself to settle to put his best foot forward. You know, he's been reportedly tricky and awkward to train as well. You know, he would need to be 100% on to win this, and I would just have my doubts about him personally, and I think maybe. And you'd have big doubts, if particularly for Ryan Moore. I think this is a bigger decision than the Oaks, really, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
Because I think it would be an admission that he'd be taking the chance in the Lion Winter. You'd have to say, all right, he does think he's top class, and he has improved, because Delacroix has done nothing wrong. He's probably the archetypal solid horse that that everyone would have in their top four. Is he going to win it though? I mean, is he that good? I mean, he's beat a lot in his 2-year-old days. But the Derby trials that he won, he was entitled to do so, and he reminds me more of the previous wins in the Leopardstown Derby trial. You know, with your Los Angeleses of the world, your Brooms, where they just finish third or fourth, second on a good year. They just 116 is kind of what he is.
It's style over substance, isn't it? It's Delacroix's
Yeah.
got the substance. Lion and Winter's the one that is the previous two winners obviously had that bad run where they didn't go off favourite either. Like, and they came back. Now I don't think he's as
They
good as
ran in
them.
a Guineas,
Yeah.
you know, in time to come over it.
And didn't have the issues at the start of the season. Like, there was obviously talk about, is he going to be ready for it? Because remember, talk, he wasn't going to the Dante, he was maybe going to go straight to Epsom, and they said, oh, we need to get a run into him. I think there'll be more money for the Lion and Winter on the day, depending, even if Ryan Moore doesn't ride.
No, if he doesn't ride, it's over.
Think so?
Yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, the only reason why you would ride him is if he's the top class prospect that you think you are, and he's come on significantly. If he's not, then he's clearly not. And to be honest, the way he races, I'm doubtful that he would see it out anyway. And I don't think he's a City of Troy or a Gus Roda, and don't think he'll ever be. So, and I think this is a good derby as well. So I can't have him. I can't have him twice the price, to be honest. You make your odd for your own back in these things, but you know he's either 40 or not, and you know you need to think that he's a mid 120 horse here to row in with certainty, really, with him, and I don't think he is. I think he kind of is what he is, really. And Aidan O'Brien doesn't talk as effusively about him as City of Troy or Augusta Rodan, and even he talked about them at 2.
Yeah.
Exceptionally, even when he was doing it 2, he never really gave that impression about him. That's another thing in the long run that worries me a little bit. It's also reported that he's definitely tricky to train, that he maybe hadn't trained on fully. In that regard, he looked okay in York. But, you know, it's very rare you see Ryan Moore unable to settle a horse in the early stages, and he was unable to settle him. Mm. And you wonder if I'll just go for the kind of solid type, the kind of thing is in, which is probably Delacroix. But he's won from 2 stop-start races that were pretty weak, and you know he's not really the true gallop, and even his stamina might be tested here, because if it's a true gallop, so usually with Ballador personnel in it, it will be, because Lamburn's the one that will definitely stay from Chester, and maybe showed a surprising turn of foot there that a lot of people didn't have. So he might be more of a ledger horse, but you know, each way he actually might be on price grounds. He actually might be one of the actual interesting horse from the O'Brien crew.
I think probably the story of the Derby would be if the Aga Khan colours of Midak won for Grafford and Mikel Barcelona, unbeaten in 3 starts. Don't know a lot about him. Anything like can I comment like 16-1? So there's there'll be a lot of people have a wee each way savouring that for obvious reasons. I think it'd be some story if the colours were to win the Derby this year.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen, is it? This horse has got no chance in form, really. Group 3 in St Cloud, you know, he's slightly down in trip, but you know, he's unbeaten, and you know, he's got the flash. He's definitely kind of more style over substance, because I mean, he's not even racing.
Yeah.
any race of significance winning this. On the Group 3, did it fine, did it was entitled to do it, and that's kind of he's got a rating of 107. He's got a stone to find. He could find it. He's unexposed, but I think it's asking a great deal from him at 16s. No, I think it's 33s more of a 33s poke for me. And if he wasn't in those colours, I think he probably would be twice the price, to be honest. And there's form lacks substance for me in a race like this, because I think the top of the market here are all pretty good. Got to say.
Last week, obviously, you seem to be very split between Ruling Court and Pride of Arras. Have you managed to narrow it down between the two?
Yeah, I just Ruling Court. I just think that's the best form, and it's been frank with Field of Gold, and yeah, and Connections had him mapped out as more of a Derby type than a Guineas type initially, and for him to do that, and again, he showcased pretty good turn of foot, and you can maybe see him do that Tatton corner. You do need speed. A bit more rain would be a bit of a concern for him. And maybe this big field will be drawn. You'd have to be ridden pretty bravely in the final third of the group, to be honest. He'll have to kind of come through with a withering run, and it'll have to be timed right. So he will need a very good ride to win. And it's now getting a bit short, 72.41 mark for that to happen. But I think he's the best horse in this race, comfortably. Whether he stays or not is a bit of a doubt. I think he's capable of it. I mean, his pedigree points to some very useful mile and a halfers in there. And I just think his form, I think that form of that Guineas, a red hot Guineas, a winner of a red hot Guineas like that really should be favourite, in my opinion, for this.
I'm going to ask him what will feel like a silly question, but I think it will come up if he wins. Would they be tempted to go to Doncaster if he wins this?
Well, I think if he's trained elsewhere, Ballydoyle, I think it would. But if it's unsuitable, it's unsuitable. I just think the Ledger would probably be too unsuitable for him. I think they'd take a look at it, depending how he finishes. But I'd find it a stretch for him to get a 1 mile 6, personally. And the Ledger sometimes kind of really does fall out of fashion as well with these mile and a half horses. I mean, would you rather run in an arc, for instance?
Yeah.
Softer ground, maybe an issue. King George, Breeders' Cup Classic at the end of the season, would you really want to kind of go for that? I don't know. So yeah, but it'll be worth exploring. It'll definitely be discussed because it's a Triple Crown. But it'll be, I think it'll be tall order because I think there's a good kind of few kind of Ledger types that might be after him already in that regard. But he's also got to win this first.
Yeah.
And I hope he's drawn in the middle, and he'll need to race maybe 2/3 back and time it right. I just think there's a lot of Massara about him, and he won the Derby where you think bit of a doubtful stare, and he touched off Running Lion, who ran really well in the Guineas as well. And the Guineas still, people say the Dante as well, but the Guineas is still a very, very strong trial for this. It's hard to win it, go back to back. Camelot was the last to achieve it. There's a lot that have gone close. But I think he won it in the kind of fashion that a Derby winner can do. And I think the front two that pulled away from are really, really good horses. Shadow of Light, for instance, 2-1, 3-1 for the Commonwealth Cup. Field of Gold won the Irish Guineas easily. And Zod's on for St James's Palace Stakes. That is light years the best form in this field. And the Stamina Doubt makes sure that he's not favourite, but I still think he should be, as he's comfortably the best horse in this race.
What do you think of the Dante form? Obviously taking away the line in winter. Pride of Arras obviously won that.
Good enough.
Damas is obviously James Doyle's taking the ride. You obviously the Guineas. Obviously, the Guineas has been the kind of main trial the past few years for the Derby, hasn't it? That seems to be the kind of.
It's been kind of treated as a trial as well by some big yards. And Godolphin now, Appleby's got a very good record in the Derby as well now. With Massar and Adiyar winning it, and he's getting horses that go close regularly. Just getting these horses to stay a mile and a half now, and when the old breeding programme didn't. So that's good. So yeah, I mean, I just think he's got the most convincing profile of the lot. The Dante was a decent enough race, and the winner was the best horse in it by a long way. It was messy, it was a bit muddling. Rafe Beckett Yard, he's going to improve from it as well, and it's going to be very hard for anything to reverse his form with him in that race. So he's got absolutely every chance. You know, he's got maybe a bit more tactical speed than the yards Westover did when he was third in it. I can see him run a really solid race. Yeah, he's without doubt to me he's the main danger. You know, he's probably worth a reverse forecast in a way of having him. And if he's better drawn, he gets a better run of things and gets his first run, because I think he's a very uncomplicated horse. And yeah, I mean, I think the other two that definitely come on this week. Damas has stayed on late, learning in the job a little bit. I don't think he'll handle Epsom as well as he did York, and I don't really see him. I don't really envisage a scenario where he could turn that form around with Pride of Aris, to be honest. Stanhope Gardens is an interesting sleeper for the Beckett Yard as well. If they're taking a chance in this, because the problem is he's obviously had a setback, but he's gone from Salisbury into this kind of like 2 weeks ago, this kind of soft race there, win that, and really being pitched in the deep end. 16-1 is kind of cutting it a bit fine now. He's a bit short. Nightwalker, I think, is definitely a St Ledger horse, Queen's Vase horse. Good eye catching fifth in the Dante. Decent enough third at Newmarket beforehand, and he's just gradually improving up and trip. You know, he's a half brother to Logician. You know, is he really going to come in his own over further? And but big field, probably a strong gallop. You know, he did show enough tactical speed to get within a few lengths in the Dante meeting, and he's reportedly been very impressive in his homework since. Tom Markin booked as a very positive jockey booking. You know, he's had massive outsiders hit the frame in recent derbies as well. So, and a lot worse profiles than him. So I think each way him at 25-1 is quite interesting. And one at a wild price. There's always one at a wild price in this. Tuscan Hills at hundreds was seventh in the Dante, where he patently needed the run. Wasn't far behind. The principals there. He was reported to need it really badly, and Ammo Racing have had a couple of big price place horses just pop up in this and run really well.
King of Steel, obviously, been famous one.
King of Steel, yeah, and Mojo Star as well, ran big races. Now, it's maybe a bit of a leap for this fella to do likewise, and he's maybe not with a fast old trainer and Raphael Frere, but I mean he could, and you're only getting 100-1 to find out. He's rated 105, so he's definitely got a good story to find. But on the fitness front, he would definitely improve from it. David Egan on tactically seems versatile. Trip, he's definitely going to improve for him. I mean, I thought he out of a few interesting outsiders. I mean, I thought Lazy Griff and Lamborn. I think that's better form than it looked at the time at Chester. Wassel Storm won at Chester's got tons to find, but even those ownership colours, him and Green Storm. Again, sometimes they can even hit the frame at massive prices. It's all about kind of handling Epsom and being cherry right for it as well, and having enough experience to do that as well. So, yeah, I mean, out the outsiders, Tuscan Hills and Nightwalker, I thought were two each way dangers. But I was just siding with Ruling Court and over Pride of Aras. But yeah, I mean, the draw is going to be pretty informative as well, come the day in tactics and see what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think it's a really tough race to call. It's a really good race. Again, the Derby has really begun to, like the past couple of years, been really good. Obviously, the last 2 years, Ballydoyle have won it with probably their best horse. But
you get a massive field as well. I mean, sometimes you could really get funny results. I mean, you saw it with the last two, with their massive fields. Serpentine nicked it from the front. Wings of Eagles came right back from the rear, and they were both massive prices. So you can get an unconventional result when there's a big field like this. So I mean, that alone might be enough for a lot of people not to take kind of sub 5-1, 6-1 in all the market leaders here, because you could get the run of things out front, or it could be teed up for the better stare at the back. You've seen both of those kind of derbies play out in the past.
Yeah, obviously, like the one I go back to, Desert Crown. Obviously, I thought that was a really, really good race, and like again, probably the best horse won that. So I don't know if a horse in here can do a performance like that, but I think this could be a really good race. I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, I think if there is a really kind of world class star, it probably is Ruling Court or the Lion in Winter. And I think if there's a really, really good winner of it, I think it's probably Pride of Aras or Delacroix. That's what you would think. But I think whatever way, and if they overdo it and it's stamina and attrition prevails, and I mean, your likes of, Lamborns of the world and Nightwalkers would come into it. And if there's a massive sneaking improver that's come out there, hit the frame, that it might be Tuscan Hills. We just never know. It's still very young horses. Like the Oaks, it's very hard to gauge what ones will genuinely progress and which ones won't. And you've got a lot of kind of high class form there as well. So it's a mishmash of really top class proven form against a lot of colts in there with enormous potential as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch. It might be messy, it might be rough and ready when it's big like that. It's going to be hard to get a position around that tight bend. Pace, tactics will be interesting. They should both be truly run classics, and I think that's a good thing because last week in France it was anything but with that. So it's proper derby run at a proper distance.
Mate, I want to thank you as always for joining me. It's been a really good show this week, and obviously best of luck this weekend at Epsom.
Indeed, yeah. Thanks again. Enjoy the action, everybody.
Thank you, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you very much.